And welcome back to the Stu Peters Show. I'm Paul Harrell filling in for Stu. So, America has 50 states. Some are conservative, some are liberal, but really no blue state has the concentrated demonic energy that emanates from the government of the state of California. I mean, it goes beyond having bad or self-destructive policies. It's really like every year the California legislature gets together and tries to think up the sickest possible things that they can foist upon the people that are still dumb enough and depraved enough to live there. California has some of the most liberal abortion laws in the country. You can basically murder your child up to the moment of birth there. So California Democrats are asking themselves, why not let it go after birth? No, we're not kidding. Well, actually, California already legally allows that, by the way. A bill passed in California last year legalized the killing of babies born alive up to 1 month after an attempted abortion. The law outright bans the state from investigating any, quote, perinatal death due to causes that occur in utero, end quote. The perinatal period refers to the period before a birth and then the period after a birth up to 28 days. So the translation there is if a born alive baby dies up to 4 weeks after being born, and the stated reason is that, well, they were injured in an attempted abortion and finally dies, then California, the state of California, cannot investigate it. So that's ghoulish, that's demonic, but now California is making it even crazier. California Assemblywoman Buffy Wicks has introduced a new bill called the Birthing Justice Bill, which legally redefines the perinatal period to last for an entire year after the end of pregnancy. Now, part of the reason for doing this is to simply expand more state welfare programs aimed at mothers, but another impact of this is the infanticide-enabling evil of last year's bill increases 12-fold. So we could literally see children born after a botched abortion, and it would be legal in the state of California to kill them an entire year later. California isn't an unpleasant state. It's an evil state, and if you live there, you need to get out now. And we're not done. The state is so psychotically committed to abortion that state Democrats are enraged that anyone might try to present a woman alternatives to killing their children. So another bill in California, in the California Assembly right now, is AB 315. This bill targets pregnancy centers by trying to punish them for so-called misleading advertising that suggests they offer abortions when they don't. To help the law cause as much harm and harassment as possible, it also gives private actors the power to sue over it, and it imposes a $1,000 fine per violation. Of course, in the internet age, it's trivially easy to find thousands of violations for any pregnancy center with online ads. And also, the reason they're irate, the real true reason they're irate, is that pregnancy centers work. They convince young women in a difficult time in their life to choose life and not murder their babies. And in California, they just will not accept that. Also, California's law is also flagrantly unconstitutional, stripping pregnancy centers of their free speech and due process rights. But when you really think about it, a state that has no qualms about infanticide, it's really hardly a surprise that they don't care about mangling the Constitution either. Susan Swift is the Vice President of Legal Affairs at the Right to Life League, and she joins us now to talk more about this. Susan, thanks so much for being with me as I guest host the Stu Peters Show.
Thanks so much, Paul. It's really a privilege to talk to you and to Stu Peters' audience. Thank you.
Absolutely. What do you make of this? What do you make of this? These California Democrats, they are obsessed with murdering babies, it seems.
You have done your research very well, and in your open, what you explained is exactly spot on. And you explained the infanticide bill, AB 2223, which is now law, and the perinatal period due to causes that occur in utero. And you also explained the next bill brought by Assemblywoman Buffy Wicks. Again, these are bills to purportedly advance funding, as you said, to help lower income women access doula care. That's what the Birthing Justice is all about. And it's all written in the Reproductive Freedom Birthing Justice. We want to make sure that BIPOC, people have the same access to care. And so what it's doing is trying to direct funding to doulas, who can then help. But again, as you've already pointed out, and as we've noted on our website, which is righttolifeleague.org, righttolifeleague.org, we've broken down the question as well. Does the redefinition of perinatal period in that bill, which I believe is 583, does that impact the rule that's already established now in AB 2223? Will that extend the perinatal period so that the state can just avoid or ignore deaths of babies born alive and who happen to die within the first month or the first year? So that you're absolutely right. You've done your homework, and this is indicative of the radical mindset of pro-aborts in California. It's not good enough that we can kill babies up to birth. No, we have to be able to kill them beyond birth, but and blame abortion. Abortion is being used as a justification for infanticide, for child infanticide. And I'm not surprised, because what they're doing is what the Supreme Court told women in 1973 in Roe versus Wade. The Supreme Court gave women the right to kill children in the womb. That's what the Roe versus Wade decision did. Now it's been rolled back. Now it's been corrected because that decision was in error. But that we've now seen about almost 50 years of a right to kill children. So it's not surprising to me that we're seeing women targeting children in schools and shooting them, because it's okay to kill children in the womb. We already know that, according to an errant court. And now we have cases in California and other states that are trying to reestablish Roe versus Wade, that idea that it's okay for a woman to kill her unborn child as a fundamental right. They're trying to bring that back in states. So we're in a battle of good and evil, as you said, and the evil is abortion. It is the targeting of human life from the moment of conception, from the moment of that God creates that life. These ghouls in various state legislatures want to be able to kill that life and snuff it out before it's even born.
Yeah, I mean, it is absolutely evil. You're right, and you mentioned these states are in many ways they're reacting. They're heaping condemnation upon themselves. By the way, so you have the Dobbs decision. It comes down. The left melts down. We're coming up on a year. Well, not quite, but in June it'll be a year, and this incredible. Really almost a reprieve, that this was an incredible miracle that finally this thing we've been working to end at pregnancy resource centers outside of abortion clinics. And the left has a meltdown, and they clamor for the Biden administration to do something, right? Many people thought it was going to be an executive order. Maybe he still tries to do that. Instead, though, what did we see from Biden? We saw his immediate response, in my opinion, was to use his personal police force, the FBI. He starts targeting Christians who have been very effective at trying to convince women. By the way, it is the loving thing to do to tell women that God does not want them to murder their babies, especially right outside abortion clinic. It's actually an act of love saying, hey, you don't want to do this because this is a grievous sin. And so Joe Biden sends the FBI, his personal police force, after somebody like Mark Houck, right, who miraculously beat all of the charges against him, these trumped-up charges. But in the meantime, his family was traumatized, his kids were traumatized as the FBI breaks down his door, in an early morning raid and arrests him. And so that, to me, that was the left's first response from the Dobbs decision, from the overturning of Roe versus Wade. And then all of a sudden, they realized that all of these states have these trigger laws that went into effect. In my home state of Arkansas, our trigger law went into effect. So when Roe was overturned, our laws were basically the way they were in the 70s before Roe versus Wade kicked in. But then you've got Illinois, New York, and California. They feel like they have to overperform in a way. And in their response to Dobbs is to get even more radical. I remember, Susan, when I first got into talk radio, 10, 12 years ago, long time ago, I read this paper. I was on local radio, and I read this paper from Australia, and it was a paper arguing that a child isn't really sentient until they're 2 or 3 years old, and so it'd be okay to kill them. And I remember at the time, people were saying this is sensational. This is just some evil outlier. It's not, though. It's not. It's now here, and the left, they've become so depraved, and they're so far down this slippery slope of depravity that now they're advocating it. And here in California, they're about to be able to kill a child a year after it's born. It's incredible.
It is, but I also wanted to remind you of what else the Biden administration did early on in 2021. What they did is through the FDA, they have almost dropped all of the safeguards against the chemical abortion procedure. The FDA has they're called REMS, risk evaluation mitigation strategies, which are purportedly there to protect the health of people who are taking medications. And what the Biden administration did is to remove those restrictions so that women can. Originally, it was they blamed COVID. They said, well, women shouldn't go into a clinic and actually have a face-to-face conversation with a doctor or a nurse and date their pregnancy with ultrasound to find out exactly how far they are along. We want to make sure that they can get these chemical abortion pills by simply telehealth medicine, so that you can type in and you can estimate the date of when you had your last period, and if you're wrong, well, who's going to check? That's why we had ultrasound dating, to make sure that these horrible medicines that actually starve a baby to death, that's what the chemical abortion process does. It starves the baby to death, and then it induces premature labor, uterine contractions, so that the woman literally delivers the dead or dying baby into her toilet at home. That's what a chemical abortion is. They call it a medication abortion because that sounds nicer, right? I'm taking medicine. It's actually starving the baby and then expelling the baby. They wanted to make sure that women didn't have to actually go in person to have that very important gestational dating. We know what the chemical abortion pill does to babies. It kills them. But we want to make sure, at least purportedly according to the FDA, we want to make sure that the procedure is safe for women. And that's why we had gestational dating, because you can't do this past about 12 weeks gestation. That was removed by the Biden administration so that women can estimate, and it can all be telehealth. Nobody's checking anymore. And then Biden's administration went even further and said, oh, we're going to allow you to get this prescription filled at Walgreens, CVS, or Rite Aid. So now you can just call in to your clinic or wherever you want to do it. They will prescribe the medication, this deadly medication that risks women's health, right? And you can go to Walgreens drive-through, pick it up, take it home, and you can abort your baby into the toilet. That's what these are what the Biden administration has done, and they're helping. That's helping the states. That's why you've heard in California, Governor Gavin Newsom has been threatening to boycott places like Florida. Because Florida has said, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, don't you sell those prescription medicines, the chemical abortions. Don't sell it in our state because we have restrictions on the use of chemical abortion. It has to be prescribed by a doctor, et cetera, et cetera. And now Gavin Newsom has been saber rattling and saying, we're going to boycott Florida unless they allow for this women's health. It is so crazy. So the Biden administration is in collaboration with these very radical pro-abort states to make sure that the killing of babies in the womb continues unabated. And I'll tell you why. Because chemical abortion makes up more than 54% of all abortions, according to Guttmacher Institute study in 2020. As of 2020, chemical abortions are the majority abortions in the United States. It's probably more than 54% now because we're 3 years after the survey. So that is the new abortion cartel. It's like Big Pharma. They're teamed up together and they are very determined to make sure you can abort your baby in the first trimester using chemical abortions. And we really don't care about the safety or the health of the mother so long as, she can go and get the abortion pill because that's where the money is. That is exactly what Biden's administration is helping these states do to make sure that the money continues to flow through Big Pharma, the abortion cartels, to kill human beings in the womb.
And that basically would just turn CVS and Walgreens. I mean, you'd now have an abortion clinic on every corner, basically.
Absolutely, and it's a staggering number of abortion clinics all nationwide. I believe it's around 80,000. I'd have to double check, but every CVS, Rite Aid, or Walgreens can essentially becomes a little mini abortion clinic dispensing chemical abortion drugs. And if you want any more information about the side effects, the potential dangers to women, you can go to abortionpillinjury.com. abortionpillinjury.com. That is an educational website that we have created at the Right to Life League to inform women that they have a risk, that they face a risk. Again, I hate to say it, never mind the baby. We know what the chemical drugs do to the baby, right? But what about the woman? There are serious side effects, including death. We know the FDA has admitted that at least 28 women have died in conjunction with taking the abortion pill. We know that because the FDA admits it. You can look at the Mayo Clinic. This is all sourced material. So you can go to abortionpillinjury.com, and it explains in a very short video exactly what the risks are that the FDA admits. And this is something that women are not really not aware of. They're still believing the lie that the baby isn't a baby; it's just a clump of cells. They're not educated about this because, again, if most women, and these are also through Guttmacher Institute surveys, if they knew that baby was a baby, if they didn't believe it was a clump of cells, most of them would have kept their child. They would never have aborted it. So this is about keeping a population ignorant so that the abortion cartel can profit. And that is why we need to explain what abortion really is, that it is the killing of an unborn human being in the womb for the purpose of killing. It is not health care. No. It is not health care, because if it were, we would be talking about delivering the woman, and that can be done in mere moments. And even in those very extreme cases, or we're talking ectopic pregnancy or preeclampsia or something that actually endangers the life of the mother, which is like less than 2%, that can be done in mere moments. Whereas if it's in the second or third trimester, it can take days to effect an abortion to save the life of the mother. So delivery is the quickest option. It saves the life of the mother, and it also allows the chance for that baby to survive.
Well, we have, and I mentioned this earlier, that it was a miracle, in my opinion, when the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade, but it's not over. Okay, just because you have Christian red states that now are protecting the unborn, I think we have to fight for a national abortion ban. I don't see, feel free to respond to this, I don't see, maybe we're just using different terms or have different technologies, but we're really no different from the Aztecs sacrificing humans atop the high places or ziggurats. That's my opinion. So do we, and then these pregnancy resource centers respond to this as well. They're still, they're doing the Lord's work, getting a woman into their door, showing them the ultrasound in many cases. A lot of these pregnancy resource centers also have mobile ultrasound units, where they'll go into, maybe bad neighborhoods and they'll help women show them what they have. They actually have a life inside of them, and they'll choose life when they see that. So you're right about the ignorance, but don't we need a national abortion ban?
Of course we do, because the Supreme Court wasn't brave enough to go further, to look actually at the Declaration of Independence, which says that our rights come from God, not government, and that our Creator has endowed us with certain inalienable rights. That means rights you can't strip away, including the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, in that order. And I believe if the Supreme Court had actually looked at the Declaration of Independence as an informative source, perhaps they would have said, well, the right to life is a foundational issue for our country. That is what our Constitution is built upon. Because if we don't have a right to life, we don't have we the people. We don't have the right to then bestow our rights upon a government. So I think that the issue of right to life is an absolutely foundational issue that informs our Constitution. But our Supreme Court wasn't ready to go that far. It is a court of limited jurisdiction, after all. And so if it feels like, we can't speak to that, we're going to put it back to the states. And that means we absolutely must clarify for judges and for our legislators that we, the people, demand to protect life from its inception. That we recognize the sanctity, the humanity of all human beings, born or unborn. This is a civil rights issue. In addition to a religious issue, we know what the religious arguments are, but even if you set aside the religious arguments, if you look at the science, follow the science, we know that life begins at conception.
Absolutely.
When an egg and sperm meet. And that is undeniable, and that unique DNA is created, and that if left alone, that unique DNA evolves and grows throughout the next 80, 90 years. You are that same person. You have the same DNA at the moment of your conception as you do right now. We're all clumps of cells, breathing, living. We all are. And we are denying that to a certain class of human beings simply because they are in the womb. And that cannot be allowed. And as a civil rights issue, if we are going to protect different ethnic groups or different genders based on their unique DNA, why aren't we also protecting the unborn? And it is absolutely time for an amendment to the Constitution that clarifies that, so that we can protect all life from the moment of conception.
Yep. I mean, this is slavery revisited. It's deciding who are people
Absolutely.
and who are not people. And it used to be, Dred Scott, well, the color of your skin, you're not a person under the Constitution if you have this color skin. And now it's you're not a person until you're out of the womb. And then California is like, well, maybe you're still not a person. I mean, it's disgusting.
You're not a person.
and to your point about the constitutional amendment, yes, we need a constitutional amendment. And then after that, we need to build a national monument, and we need to erect it in Washington, D.C., and it needs to be a monument to the millions of children who have been slaughtered in this genocide since 1973. And we need to never forget what we allowed to happen, and we need to look at what we allowed to happen for as long as we did.
We need to put that monument in Sacramento, California, because most of all of this starts in Sacramento. I mean, the first therapeutic abortion bill was in 1967. It was called the Bielenson Bill. And that is actually when the Right to Life League was founded, because concerned citizens, doctors, and lawyers went up to lobby then Governor Ronald Reagan in 1967 and asked him, please don't sign the Bielenson Bill. Please don't sign this first therapeutic abortion bill. And when he understood what abortion really was, he was very dismayed, because he said, I've already promised the other side that I would sign the bill, but I promise you, the Right to Life League, that I will never again sign another piece of pro-abortion legislation. And he kept his word all the way through his presidency. That what starts in the national debate on abortion is in California. That's where this battle will be fought and won, and that's where we need to put a monument to the aborted, the 63 million or more, it's probably more than that, of aborted babies, human American citizens who have been slaughtered on the altar of progressivism or wokeism, whatever the ism is.
Depopulation,
it is a radical. Exactly, but it is a pro-abortion mindset. It is anti-humanism, because we know that is their goal, that they want to empower the killing of innocent preborn human beings up to birth and beyond. And that needs to stop. But we have to fight this battle in California, which is where it all starts. Look, we're looking at, Gavin Newsom. He might want to run for president. Heaven forfend. But you see that it starts in California. They are groomed and grown. They are set as political possibilities in California, and from California they go to the Congress or the Senate or the presidency. That's where it starts, and that is why people in California, we need to start engaging in our local systems and at school boards and political activism to reclaim our state, to reclaim our nation from these pro-abort radicals who want to kill human beings.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree, and I really appreciate your time, Susan Swift, with the Right to Life League. The website, again, is righttolifeleague.org, correct?
That's right, righttolifeleague.org.
All right. Thank you so much, Susan. It's great to meet you, and look forward to doing it again sometime.
Thanks a lot, Paul. God bless you.
Don't go anywhere, folks. Back in just a moment.
The Stu